Welcome to the Flip Your Script podcast. I'm Kristi Piehl. Today's guest is a champion, not just as an athlete, but also a champion of truth-telling, vulnerability, and advocacy. Maggie Nichols is an 8-time NCAA gymnastics champion and the author of Unstoppable, a memoir that reveals the abuse she suffered as part of the U.S. team and what she risked for justice. Maggie, welcome to the Flip Your Script podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
I'm in Minnesota right now. You're from Minnesota. When you were going through the elite gymnastics world, when you were a teenager, you're a household name. I mean, from the time you were little, you were known. I mean, I imagine you couldn't go to the grocery store without people being like, look, there she is. So you grew up in sort of this other world. At what point did you go from normal? I mean, there's no such thing as a normal childhood, but doing kid things to Maggie the gymnast.
I had a great childhood. Started gymnastics very young, but I think when things really changed for me, I think I was around 13 years old when I started, striving to go elite. And, I was kind of one of the top gymnasts in my gym. So this felt like my name started getting out there and started, going up the levels pretty quickly. So I think at the age 13, things kind of changed for me. And I think I also realized like I do have the talent for this and I could, make it pretty far in the sport. So I think that's when things really took a turn.
And at what point did you leave the high school sort of environment and spend your summers and weekends and that sort of thing in this USA, gymnastics world?
Yeah. So I was very thankful I was able to go to high school until I graduated. I did do things a little bit different. I did half online. I started doing that, I think, in middle school, but I was just happy I was able to, kind of have some sort of a normal life and go to school, see some of my friends, and then half day at lunch, I would go to practice, and, train for, 5 hours or so. So I kind of had a normal life, kind of didn't. I was just happy I was able to do both, and I had fun.
And then you went to college and won, as I mentioned, many awards in college and were in the conversation for the 2016 Olympics. I mean, the Simone Biles, the team that many look to as like this was the team, right? And you then didn't quite make that team, but your name got associated with all of those young women because of what happened as part of the training. Mm-hmm. So before we get into the abuse part, many people can resonate with, I have been working so hard for this thing and I am going to make this team or whatever it might be, the goal, and then it doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. How did you deal with that struggle?
Yeah. It was pretty difficult. I mean, I seriously worked for that goal since I started the sport of gymnastics. It was always, I want to go to the Olympics. I want to go to the Olympics. So coming up a little bit short at Olympic trials was very disappointing. But I'm not someone who wants to dwell on the disappointments. I had something so great to look forward to, and that was going to the University of Oklahoma and being able to compete there for the collegiate team. And they were one of the best teams at the time. So I kind of turned my focus on, going to Oklahoma and enjoying myself there and doing gymnastics there and helping them win some national titles. So I really tried not to dwell on the disappointment. I mean, obviously it was very difficult, having a dream be crushed. It's always disappointing, but I mean, we can't always, dwell on the disappointments and kind of have to move on. And I always try to take everything as a learning lesson and moved on, went to the University of Oklahoma and kind of had a record-breaking career there. So sometimes what happens to us, it's difficult, but sometimes that ultimately leads you into something so much greater.
Did that fuel you? Did the disappointment fuel you when you were in Oklahoma?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think I was just excited to be in a new place, a new environment, have new goals. And so I felt like I kind of was starting fresh. I wasn't in the elite world anymore. I was in the collegiate world. So I kind of wanted to, bring my name out there and, accomplish the new goals that I set for myself.
So your name is still at the very top of the gymnastics world, and the news breaks that shatters I mean, secrets come out, you all become not just elite gymnasts, but also victims.
Hmm.
What was that like? Because that was something that was so public, and you all, not all, many of you yourself chose to really step forward and step up and use your voice,
Hmm.
and to be survivors and not be identified as victims.
Hmm. Yeah. Obviously a very difficult process. It took me quite a while to decide whether or not I wanted to come out publicly or not, just because it is a lot. But ultimately I came to the decision to come out publicly because I felt like I could help other people, sharing my story and help other survivors not feel alone, that there's someone else that's going through the same thing. And someone maybe that could just lean on me or learn from, my story. So it was very difficult, but ultimately what we did was right. We made change for a lot of people, helped a lot of, gymnasts, and saved a lot of girls.
When before you went public with that information, you had to tell people close to you, your family, you had to tell people, your loved ones, your friends. Was that more difficult than talking about it publicly?
Yeah, both very difficult. I think it was just at the time, it was just kind of like a scary, awkward thing to talk about. I ultimately told my coach first because I was so young, I didn't really understand what was going on. So just vocalizing that with her, and she was like, "That is not right." So that's when things kind of, started talking to more people about it, my family and everything. It was definitely very difficult, and my family definitely protected me throughout the whole thing, and kind of handled a lot of the really difficult things behind the scenes so I could continue to train and, live out the rest of my, young life.
So from the time that you said something to your coach until you talked about it publicly and the rest of us knew what was going on, how many years transpired?
Yeah, so I told my coach, and then I was anonymous for a few years. I didn't come out publicly until I was a sophomore, I think, in college. So it was a very long process of me being anonymous, but we reported it right away after I told my coach. But it just took me a few years to really come to that decision to come out publicly, just because it was such a difficult decision to make.
And you had the gift of time and maturity and adulthood by
Hmm.
that point, which certainly, and I'm sure you processed it with professionals and others who could help you, go through the process. But then the documentary, you choose to be part of Athlete A, which
Hmm.
and our Athlete A. Talk about that.
Yeah, I think Athlete A, it came out amazing. I think that did an amazing job. Again, that was a very long process as well. I was still in college, I was still training, competing, traveling. So I was very busy. So it was a lot to handle at the time, but I ultimately knew that this documentary was going to educate so many people, people that don't even know the sport of gymnastics, didn't know the story of this whole USA gymnastics scandal and everything. So I knew that it was going to be huge and that it was going to help a lot of people. So it was a very interesting process. I mean, obviously I've never been in a documentary before, and it was a lot of interviews and things like that, but I had my family got interviewed and everything. So it was a big team effort. But I think it came out amazing. It really tells the story in detail. And I think that a lot of people were educated from watching that.
And you all just showed what it's like to boldly own your truth and to
Mhm.
boldly own a narrative and a story and to claim that. And when anyone takes a step forward doing that, of course it's scary and risky, and I can't imagine what that was like for all of you, for you and your family. But you do it so that you can help others, and you go into that expecting, gosh, I hope if I could just help one person. Well, now it's been out for a while, and your book Unstoppable is out. What have you gotten back? What stories or things do you think that you've actually been able to do that's like, man, I'm so glad I went public because I got to help this person?
Yeah. In times of, coming out publicly, with Athlete A and my book and everything, there is a lot of scary and nerve-wracking times, but sometimes, when you get a DM on Instagram or Facebook, or, someone at a gymnastics meet that comes up to you and just like, you helped me tell my story, or gave me the strength. And, in those moments, I'm like, I did the right thing. Everyone's story is so different. Some people want to stay anonymous, some people want to go out publicly. But for me, when people come up to me and said, you really helped me, or you helped me tell my story, you gave me strength. Those are the moments where I'm like, I did the right thing for me.
And for others.
And for others, yes.
And the sport.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of changes have you seen when it comes to how young girls and young athletes are treated, cared for, not just in gymnastics? I mean, what you did and how you spoke about it has changed other sports as well. What are you most proud of when it comes to the change that has happened?
Yeah, I think I'm most proud of just this story being in such light, just because it is talked about a lot. A lot of people know about it. Everybody knows about it. So I think that girls and everyone in sport is just, they're more protected. And I just know we have such a strong team of people that we're never going to let this happen again. And I'm just proud that, athletes are protected.
And there's something powerful that happens when you bring something that's in the dark into the light. And so many people don't say what's happening that's going on in the dark because they're worried about shame, or they blame themselves, or, I mean, not at the public scale. Most people will never have the kind of public situation that you went through, but they will have their many people, and stats show majority of women at some point have something that happened to them that is not okay, is illegal, is makes them a victim. And it's too much shame for them to say. How has your stepping into this conversation helped that, do you think?
Like helped other people?
Yeah, helped other people. Just find a voice.
I think it just gives people hope that, it is such a scary thing to share your story. I mean, I know I had a lot of worries that, am I doing the right thing by sharing this, or, like a lot of, giving yourself blame, or, a lot of those worries. So I think telling my story and giving other people, strength to tell theirs, and just gives them hope that, maybe telling my story, will give them, justice and get them the help that they need.
And as you've talked about your story and the genesis of it, I think there's a couple of nuggets that I think I can pull out that perhaps will help other people as well. When it happened, you first went to someone safe. You went to someone safe to talk about it, and then you processed it with the people that you love, and then you brought in experts. And then after some time, you went public, and it was over the course of years. And, there's a lot of, with social media, people that go public with things before they've kind of gone through that process. Oftentimes it's really difficult, and then they get kind of shamed further because they're going public with something. And the process at which you did it, I realize everyone's process is very different, and it's very personal. I think that the way that you did it and the process that you took probably also is helping people. Have you heard that?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, I had such an amazing support system. So I just really relied on everyone that I could, feel comfortable talking to, just telling my coach and then telling my family. They just cared for me so much that they kind of helped handle a lot of the difficult things behind the scenes, talking to authorities, talking to, people behind the scenes. So I'm just very thankful for, my support system who helped me through that process. But everyone's process is so different and how people handle it and everything. But I'm just thankful for, how my, journey played out and the people that helped me through it.
And do you think about how different it would have been if your coach would have said, nah, I don't think you probably are misreading what's going on, Maggie. And I think that's a takeaway for adults. If someone tells you something that doesn't seem right, I believe you, let me help you answer is the right answer.
Yeah. I mean, my coach, Sarah, that just shows her amazing character and how much she cares for her athletes. She didn't even bat an eye when I said anything. She, took it into her own hands and, made the appropriate steps in the right direction to, make change. So I'm very thankful that I had such an amazing coach. And honestly, I consider her part of my family now just because of how much she cares for me as a person and all of her athletes.
So for the folks that are wondering, gosh, are those girls? You're women, but many of them think of you all when you're teenagers. Are you still friends? Did
Oh
this
yeah, for
all
sure.
of this make you closer?
Yeah, for sure. Stuff I'm definitely still close with like Simone and Allie. I mean, we'll text and everything. I went to Simone's wedding, and I mean, it's really cool to have those, long-lasting relationships, more so than just, being teammates, and now we're adults. And I know Simone's still competing, but I know me and Allie are retired now. So it's fun to still, live this life of, adults, and, we can do other things now other than just, training together. So it's really fun. And we've been through a lot together, obviously gymnastics, but then also this whole thing. So it's been really nice to be able to lean on each other and, help each other out whenever. But I think it's really nice because we also can talk about other things that kind of get our minds off of it and enjoy each other's company.
I liked Simone so much more before she married a Packer. Again, Vikings Packer thing. No, I'm just kidding. But Simone, like, still competing. How fun is it for you to watch her?
Oh my gosh, it's so fun. I feel like she just gets better every single meet, every single year. So I'm super excited to watch her this summer at the Olympics. And I know she's going to do amazing. She just looks like she's really enjoying herself and having so much fun. And that's all we care about. And her gymnastics obviously is incredible. She is the best of the best. And I'm just so proud of her and can't wait to cheer her on.
Will you go to watch in person, or you watch from home, from the
I'll
couch?
probably watch from home. I wish I could go. That would be amazing. Maybe we'll see. But
To be determined.
yes.
Um, as we think about your legacy and what you've gymnastics and then Athlete A kind of as this other chapter for you. I know they were happening at the same time, but for the public, there's these kind of two chapters. Talk about what you're doing now, Maggie.
Yeah, so I'm doing a lot of different stuff. So I am a online personal trainer. So I have my own fitness app that I run, and then I also work for a company that I do one-on-one personal training with. So I really am passionate about that. I have always been passionate about health and fitness. So it's been really fun to, train people and just continue to work on myself and my, physical health and stuff. So I do that. I own a nonprofit organization called the Maggie Nichols Foundation, where I help victims of all types of abuse. I run a couple gymnastics meets around the US every single year with LR Productions. I love doing that, still being involved in the sport and helping young girls just stay positive during competitions and have fun. And I also do a bunch of like speaking engagements where I travel to universities, nonprofits, and share my story and kind of give some motivational speeches. So yeah, I do a lot of different stuff, but it's really fun.
Well, congratulations on your
Thank you.
ongoing success. I think what's interesting about the work that you're doing now is you have, again, we talked about light and dark and this kind of binary view of the world, which the world is not black and white necessarily, but you do the work with the victims, which is heavy and difficult. And then you kind of light up talking about fitness and motivation. How do you mentally balance those two things and not go down this path of like, oh my gosh, so many people are suffering?
hmm Yeah, I kind of just take the two as different approaches. I mean, when I am, talking to victims and things like that, it is a dark place, but I know that I'm helping them and going to help them get through whatever they're going through. And just sharing my story is, I think, super important, again, to educate and continue to talk about it, just so it never happens again. And then obviously when I'm working with, my clients for personal training, I'm very motivating, uplifting, and just helping them become the best versions of themselves. I kind of, just take them in two different approaches, but I really enjoy both just because they are doing good for, both the circumstances.
And when you do your speaking or you're working with, one-on-one and you're trying to motivate someone, what do most couch potatoes need to hear to get moving and to find a better version of themselves?
Yeah, it kind of just depends on the person. Everyone's so different. But I think a lot of people just need the accountability, to get up, get into the gym, have a workout in front of them that they know that they can do, and just having someone to push them. And everyone's just so different though, so it just depends if they need tough love, or they need just like a little nudge or a little push. Just kind of depends on the person, but I love to be that person to help them take that step into improving their health and fitness.
So 20 years from now, 30 years from now, you'll have these kind of different parts of your life. What do you want to be known for?
Oh gosh. I think I want to be known for a few different things. Obviously, I want to be known for my strength and overcoming obstacles. I think my story is one of a lot of, I mean, if you've read my book, I went through a lot of injuries, and then obviously the difficulty with USAG and the abuse. Just overcoming, keeping a positive attitude, and taking obstacles as opportunities for growth. Like I said, not making that Olympic team, and then going on to the University of Oklahoma and becoming kind of a record breaker there. I think just shows the strength that I kept within, and keeping a positive attitude. I also want to be known for helping other people, sharing my story and helping other people share theirs. And someone who is just a hard worker, and someone who gives it everything that they have. When they have a dream, they're gonna, give it 100% until they achieve it.
Where would you say that your strength comes from?
I think it just comes from my family and the people around me, the people that I look up to. They've given me strength from, showing me through their life. So I just had a great upbringing that, taught me a lot of great lessons. But I think just within, I, set a lot of goals for myself and don't stop until I achieve them. So if I am going through a tough time, I know I have those goals in the back of my mind, and I know I'm strong enough to overcome it. So I think it just really comes from the people that I look up to, and then obviously comes from within.
And even now, when you're having a struggle or an obstacle, you're still reaching out to people for support. You're still like that is part of your everyday sort of life, is that, gosh, I have this struggle. I'm not going to do it alone. I'm going to talk to someone else. That's still something that you advocate for and tell people to do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course. I'm someone who really likes to lean on my friends and family, people that I'm really close to. I think that's super important. You never want to go through anything alone. I always ask for advice, someone to talk to, lean on. Everyone's so different though. If you need professional help, family, friend, just find your support system. You never want to go through anything alone. It's just easier when you have a team and people behind you.
And the people behind you who you can tell anything to them and they will be there for you,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I think, part of the reason that so many people keep their secrets, because they're not sure what the response will be. And when you keep a secret for a long time, my goodness, it will eat you up from the inside out.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's really important to be able to find, even if it's just one or two people that you feel comfortable enough to talk to, whether it is about sharing your story, something you've gone through, anything. It really just helps to not feel alone, because it's just you and a secret, it really will eat you alive, and that's really hard to deal with. So it is really important to have that support system and have people that you can talk to.
Mm-hmm. Well, Maggie, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing what happened to you on such a in so many public ways, the documentary, the book, because my goodness, the number of people that you've helped, they're DMing you, but think of all the people that you'll never know
Well, thank
who
you
you
so much. I
helped.
really appreciate that. It means a lot.
The last question I have for you is what I ask guests at the end of the podcast. Is there a quote, mantra, scripture, song, lyric, something that you'd like to share that has helped you motivate you as you have flipped your script several different times?
Yeah. So I'm a quote girl. I love quotes. I used to post quotes almost every single day. I still do. But I think I have so many favorites, but one that really explains me, I think, is everything happens for a reason. I know that is a very cliche quote, but it really just exemplifies my story. Every single obstacle, everything that I've gone through has happened for a reason and has led me to a greater purpose. Again, I know I said this, but not making the Olympic team led me to going to Oklahoma, being a record breaker. I mean, there's so many of those in my story. So I always rely on every single thing happens for a reason. So yeah.
And it is, so many people that are on this podcast that have things that they've had to overcome and pretty significant obstacles. Many of them have said, gosh, I didn't want it to happen, of course, and I wouldn't want it to happen to someone else, but had it not happened, I wouldn't be who I am today. And because of it happening, I'm able to do more and help more people and have a bigger platform. And that very much speaks to the quote and very much speaks to how you live your life and what you're doing now and will do in the future.
Exactly. I mean, nobody wants to go through hard times and obstacles, but I really think that, these obstacles aren't going to last forever. And I always try to take a moment when I am going through a difficult time or an obstacle, take a moment to think, what is this teaching me? What is this growing me? And I always know that I'm going to overcome it, and it's just going to grow me into the person that I'm meant to be.
Thank you, Maggie. We'll put links to the book and to your social media on our website. It's been a joy to talk with you, and we're cheering for you, and we're cheering for Team USA this summer.
Thank you so much. And yes, go Team USA.
Well, this week's Flip Your Script Challenge, I think really is an internal question. Is there something that you feel like you can't tell the people around you? And if that is true, then it may be time to think about other types of support systems, professional help, or just re-examining the relationships around you and replacing perhaps folks who will not just believe you, support you, and empower you to get to a healthier place where you feel comfortable to share your story, which is what this podcast is all about. My hope is Maggie's story empowers you to believe you're capable of more than you think, to discover motivation, to uncover inspiration, and to find the strength to turn the page.